There are two holy grails of storytelling, and every writer worth their salt will at least once in their lifetime attempt to unravel one of them. And yes, I'll be so mean to only showcase one of these elusive treasures, as the other one is reserved for another video. Today we are dealing with Attack on Titan, with a narrative that successfully captured one of these holy grails. So stay tuned to find out what the least understood but most sought after storytelling achievement is, and how Attack on Titan managed to attain it. I will also showcase the most comprehensive breakdown of what the 3-act and 5-act structures are, why they are the way they are, and how Kisho Tenketsu is basically doing the same thing for the same purpose. And why Eren is one of the most interesting anime protagonists I've seen in a while. Yes, he's evil, and anyone excusing his actions should maybe talk with their family about unresolved issues, but it's still incredibly well done, and I'll show you why. Don't worry, we'll get to the thumbnail. Subscribe and hit the like, it helps to get the word out. So let's not waste any time and jump into Wrong Answers Only, Munchies Gone Wrong, the show. In my video The Elixir's Undoing, how Johnson killed Disney Star Wars, I explained what the elixir is and gave concrete examples across various movies and TV shows, consisting mostly of single lines or scenes. But what I did not tell you is that the elixir holds the key to one of these holy grails of storytelling. The key being when your entire narrative transforms into the elixir itself. You cannot improve a story past this. Only a few writers have managed to achieve this remarkable feat. So what must be done to attain such mastery? You must really think long and hard about what story you want to tell, how and why.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock!
Look, I know I'm stating the obvious here, but most writers are not doing it because it's easier said than done. And all three of these, what, how and why, must be interlinked and march in lockstep. This is precisely why great tragedies, epics and comedies often serve as the ideal vehicles for delivering this type of narrative elixir. They enable writers to grapple with colossal themes. How do I tell the story of a larger-than-life figure? How do I tell the story of one of the worst atrocities in human history? How do I tell the story of what are basically demons in human form? This is why dark comedies like The Death of Stalin become accessible vehicles to deal with evil incomprehensible to the most of us. And the first steps you need to take is to identify your designing principle and theme. There are about 24 script gurus out there, all yelling at you which template to pick as if you just voiced your opinion on a certain conflict in the Middle East.
Where Israel...
What? Israel isn't supposed to defend itself?
Oh yeah, if Mexico bombed Texas, will we exercise
What other country is held to the same standard as Israel?
I have read all the gurus, and they all say the same thing, in particular when you arrange their blueprints along the midpoint. Don't worry, we'll get to that too. But one script guru made it his mission to only dissect the greatest of stories, the timeless epics, tragedies and comedies, and it's John Truby with The Anatomy of Story. Now it's a hefty tome, and I do not recommend the book to newcomers. Only after you have written at least 1 or 2 features or pilots do I recommend reading it. Don't even bother if you're writing short stories. This is not to say that short stories have no profoundness to them. It's that Truby has such an overcomplicated and comprehensive approach that it only becomes beneficial when writing a long and colossal story. Only then does it become a waymarker. As the title suggests, he builds up a story from the ground up. Theme is the brain, character is heart and circulation system, plot and revelations are the nervous system, story structure is the skeleton, and scenes are the skin. John Truby does not like act structure. He thinks both the 3-act and the 5-act structures are mechanical, while an actual story is always organical. Now before we proceed, I want to answer one obvious question. What does any of this have to do with anime and manga? They don't even write screenplays, right? That's true, but one thing you have to understand is that the following words are a misnomer: storytelling templates. They are not templates, they are storytelling vehicles, and the destination is always the same. All these, the 3-act, 5-act structures, Save the Cat, Anatomy of Story, or Kisho Tenketsu, are different vehicles for the same destination. So stay tuned as I break down everything, showing how it's all connected as we build our Titan from the ground up. How do we find Attack on Titan's designing principle? Well, first you need to identify the what, which is the premise, and boil it down to just one sentence. A traumatized boy with grit. Yeah, I know, I just described every shonen protagonist. Alright, let's go with a traumatized boy with gumption. Seeks revenge against the Titans who destroyed his village while uncovering the truth about the walled society he lives in. From the premise, you extract the designing principle, which is the how. This is the basic action your protagonist will take throughout the course of the story. The designing principle weaves through everything. What theme to take, what structure, what scenes, what characters, what dialogue. What is Attack on Titan's designing principle? A traumatized but skilled soldier must use his Titan ability to protect humanity while not succumbing to the truth which lies beyond his walled society. With this, you got your how. And now you're left with picking your why. What is Attack on Titan's theme? An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, as war never changes. With this, you got your what, how, and why. And Anatomy of Story demonstrates how every great story had to start here. Be it a film like Citizen Kane, premise, check. Designing principle, check. And theme, check. Or a series of books, all three, check. A religious tome, check, check, and check. Or a comic series turned into a film. Again, all three, check. The reason this is such a powerful tool is that it allows you to grapple with a moral argument, the emphasis being on argument. Do not conflate this under any circumstances with what I like to call Ma allegory. Ma allegory is to writing what don't punch down is to unfunny people trying to do comedy.
That is a dog made entirely out of crayons. I don't need that.
Some directors tell the same story over and over and over again with Ma allegory. It's cheap and easy, but it's also superficial, empty, and it dates horribly, because it's nothing more than playing favorites with your political proclivities.
It was never the criminals of Gotham that scared me. It's you. The rich want more.
It cuts out so much of what is the human condition that it becomes utterly useless when you try to grapple with important themes, because the do-better crowd thinks allegory is a substitute for theme.
You've got to do better, Senator.
But at the core of theme is argument, and you have to be very honest with yourself in order to write the actual argument. You have to be on both sides of it, and this is why we did our little homework before we even get to the show. This allows us to stare into the abyss and deep dive into the bottomless pit that is human evil. Hell is what awaits us. And only hell. Full-on Attack on Titan spoilers from here on out. We open with our shonen protagonist, Eren Yeager. As anime protagonists go, both Eren's looks and skills seem rather innocuous, but the trauma he's about to experience is anything but. It wouldn't be a shonen anime without something going horribly wrong. This is like a drunkard who runs on debt and his whole $33 trillion bubble is about to come down on him. Humanity lives peacefully in what looks like a walled garden, and Eren together with his friends Mikasa and Armin wonder what might lie beyond humanity's confines. And of course, the snakes have long infiltrated the Divine Garden, and Eren and friends are about to find out.
That wall's 50 meters high. Oh, God. It's a Titan.
In one fell swoop, the colossal Titan kicks out the gate and a group of smaller Titans with the Munchies swarms in. Eren and Mikasa head home, only to find it crushed by a boulder which had been kicked out by the colossal Titan. Worse, his mother is trapped under the rubble with no one to help, since most of the soldiers are useless, drunk on peacetime booze and card games. Hannes, a unit captain of the garrison and something of a surrogate uncle to Eren and Mikasa, swoops in to buy them some time. It is here that Hannes quickly learns the same life lesson my grandma always told me. If you're not stronger, you are faster. He grabs the kids and runs for their lives, and Eren is left with nothing but to watch his mother be devoured. As trauma goes for a protagonist, I give this 8 out of 10 mock execution Dostoevskys. We don't talk about the 9s and 10s on YouTube. The next killing blow is dealt by the armored titan, as he breaches the inner side of the wall, creating a path through Wall Maria, and into not just fertile land, but also more human settlements. From here on, the first season takes a rather, let's say, traditional shonen route. Eren has all the reasons in the world to hate the Titans and to eradicate them. With grit and passion, he goes through boot camp to join the Scout Regiment. These guys are to Attack on Titan what ODSTs are to Halo. Helljumpers risking it all by venturing outside the walls to take the Titans head on. And like the ODSTs, with great sacrifice.
Where is my son? He should be with you all. Oh, please tell me he made it.
I wish I had better news. Give it to her.
During this time, Eren also makes some new friends, like Raina and Berthold, Sasha and Connie, and his best bickering buddy Jean. He also experiences what some men are willing to pay good money for with Annie.
Oh, thank you, Lord in heaven.
The scouts are also led by the incredible Commander Erwin and leaders like Levi and Hanji. Don't worry, we'll get to this magnificent bastard soon enough. From the outset, it looks like Eren and friends are ready to take on the world. But the suspicious calm before the storm, which oddly enough feels like it's been placed exactly at the middle of an act when... Oh my god, I did not expect this.
This is it, people! Do or die! Mounted Cannon Squad 4! Take out the Colossal Titan! This is our chance! Don't let it slip away!
It's been a while.
But then we find out, again, oddly enough, right at the middle of an act, that Eren can transform into a Titan and take him head on! And in the next act, again right in the middle of it, we find out that there's another Titan who can transform at will. Then we find out it's Annie, at the middle of an act. Again, what are the odds? Get a lot of this. Season 2, much shorter, almost like an act. Right in the middle of it, we find out that Raina and Berthold are the Armored and the Colossal Titans, and they're here to kidnap Eren. What? Then in the first half of the third season, again right in the middle, my god, this is like getting the lottery numbers right. Right in the middle of it, we find out that Eren's father gave him the ability to transform. Then in the second half of the third act, right in the middle of it, we find out that the Beast Titan is Zeke, Eren's half-brother. What in God's name is going on? And then in the last act of season 3, right in the middle of it, again, we find out that Eren's father is from the world outside the walls. What? I should maybe explain to you what an act is. The key in understanding what an act is lies in the human bladder. Ha! You thought I'm gonna say human mind.
Fool me once. Shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
But no, it's the bladder, and it'll take exactly the time Austin Powers needs to empty his to explain this. You see, back in the ancient world, there weren't many venue options when it came to entertainment. You got your local theater, your local coliseum, and your local whorehouse.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937.
Right, okay, let's go with local sex workers' house then. Your local coliseum and your local sex workers' house weren't exactly family friendly, so the theater became the go-to venue. And boy was it a big event, sometimes going on for hours on end. And so an act was not just used to indicate a curtain fall, but to also give audiences the time to empty their bladder.
Evacuate.
and to replace the candles, as these events would go on long into the night. Why were they so long? Well, you had to tell everything. There were no special effects to accompany your theatrical performance. If you had a storm in your story, you had to explain the storm with great detail. And he's done. So the next obvious question is, how do you know you have an act on your hands? And why 5 or 3? Or in the case of Kisho Tenketsu, 4. An act is the smallest unit which mimics the entire structure of the whole, and 5 acts allow you to complete a dramatic arc. With 5 acts, you'll have your setup, conflict or rising action, climax, falling action and resolution. And an act will have all of these as well. That's how you know you have an act on your hands. And with the advent of industrialization, new technologies were introduced into the theater. Suddenly you didn't have to explain a storm, you could just show it. And once the moving pictures came along, you could just show the whole damn thing in 90 minutes or 2 hours. The 5 acts morphed into 3 acts because of economic reasons and because most people can hold it in for at least 2 hours. But the core structure is the same, in particular the climax, which turned into the midpoint. They still have the same purpose. I mentioned before that all of these are vehicles. Vehicles for what? Every dramatic arc or vehicle is a tug-of-war battle between the hero's facade and the hero's flaw. The purpose of these vehicles is to burn away the hero's facade, so there's nothing left but the hero's flaw, and the hero is forced to make a decision, change or go down with your flaw. Be it the midpoint in 3-act structure or climax in 5-act structure. Both of these do the same thing. They hold the first key to the hero's transformation. And Attack on Titan is a masterclass on how to utilize midpoints. Midpoints must accomplish 3 things. First, be in the middle, hence the name. Second, raise the stakes. And third, hold a key to the hero's transformation. And for Attack on Titan to transform its entire narrative into the elixir, Isayama had to do 2 things. A, find the designing principle and theme, and B, stick to it till the very end. This show should be taught in screenwriting classes, and I'm dead serious, because every midpoint throughout the show follows the dramatic arc, raises the stakes and holds a key towards the hero's transformation. Every midpoint burns away at Eren's facade until we're left with nothing but his flaw. Now for those who still don't get it and wonder, well, what about Kisho Tenketsu?
Now listen to me very carefully.
They are the same thing.
Welcome to the rice fields, mother.
Kisho Tenketsu is a 4-act structure, and at first, rather superficial glance, it looks like a more compressed Freitags pyramid. I mean, just look at them. But there is a twist to Kisho Tenketsu, and this twist is what allows it to tell a story without conflict, if the writer intends to. Because this is not to say that Japanese stories lack any conflict. But in Western storytelling, conflict is baked into the structure, and I'll use Freitags pyramid to illustrate this, as both 3-act and 5-act structure follow the same arc. This path right here, that's conflict, and conflict allows you to burn away the hero's facade, to make the flaw visible at the climax by pushing your hero towards the breaking point. Now, the same stretch is development in Kisho Tenketsu. And we use the twist to recontextualize the development and to basically vanish the facade like a magic trick. This is what allows Kisho Tenketsu to tell stories without conflict within the structure. This is why it's so well suited for game design or urban legends. Now, why was conflict baked into Western storytelling to begin with? Well, as someone who grew up in Austria, I'm very adapted to think in 1000-year terms. So let me take you through a brief history of Europe.
Blood alone moves the wheels of history!
For breakfast, we'll do something cool, like have a cigarette and like a bar of chocolate. And then we go for work for like 1/2 hour, 2 hour.
I've been looking for freedom.
And then dinner, you know, we'll do something healthy, like, you know, 4-5 sausages, and then like a chocolate cigarette. And we so much can eat as much as we want, and we never get heavy because of olive oil.
Look, I know the history of Asia ain't much different.
Chinese history be like. Zhao Ling takes power. 247 million perish.
What? I get all my history from memes. My bet is that Europe is just tiny. I mean, for my American viewers, this is Texas over Europe. It's tiny, with dozens of different people, all in conflict for thousands of years. So conflict got baked into the storytelling structure. But what really matters for you to take home is that these are just vehicles. They are dramatic arcs, meant to burn away the hero's facade. And the reason John Truby describes them as mechanical is because most writers tend to push their stories into these like Tokyo Metro officers do people. But what you should do instead is build your story from the ground up and then see how many acts you end up with. You might tell your story in just 3 acts or 30. They're all vehicles for the same destination. This is why I can break down Attack on Titan with classic screenwriting structure, while Isayama developed it with Kisho Tenketsu. We end up in the same destination, and some of you might have even noticed that this very video can be broken down into 3, 4 or 5 acts. And now it's time to enter the final act. We have discovered our what, we have our how, and in the pits of hell we'll find our why. In order to execute the why perfectly, you must understand 2 things about your theme: your hero's flaw and your own capacity for evil and willingness to cause suffering. And what Isayama did is use every midpoint in every act to chip away at Eren's facade, to make the flaw visible. The entire show itself has a midpoint too, or rather climax, when the final key for Eren's transformation is laid bare. At the end of the 3rd season, the key to demolishing Eren's facade is here.
And just across that sea, freedom's waiting. That's what I always believed, at least. But I was wrong. I know what's waiting across the sea now. It's our enemies. Hey. If we did cross the sea, and we killed our enemies, after that, would we finally be free?
This is where he starts to turn into a school shooter archetype. An Attack on Titan story structure has purposefully been set up for this. So let's quickly recap the story. Where did we leave off? Right, people can turn into Titans at will, and with the exception of Eren, most of these people seem to be spies from outside the walls. So who are they? To understand this, we have to go back, like a lot. Around 2000 years ago, 2 great nations, Marley and Eldia, had been at war for centuries. One day, a slave by the name of Ymir was sentenced to death by the Eldian king. For the crime of opening the gate to a pen, she let a few pigs escape. So as a punishment, she was let go too, and hunted for sport like a rabid dog. In a last-ditch effort to escape, she went inside an unnaturally large tree, but beneath her was a sinkhole, and she fell into a pool of liquid where an alien-looking centipede latched onto her. And so the first Titan was born. But to everyone's surprise, she returned to the king. And the power of the Titan was used to expand the Eldian Empire. The king then took Ymir as a concubine, and she bore 3 children: Maria, Rose, and Sheena. These are also the names of the walls. We'll get to those in a bit. 13 years later, Ymir died defending the king, and her powers were inherited by her daughters when they cannibalized her body. Look, the ancient world was brutal, with or without Titans. Count your blessings, as your ancestors suffered enough, is all I can say. This way, the Titan ability was passed on, and it split into 9 Titans, which formed the basis for 9 royal families. With the Titans, Eldia conquered the whole world, and was soon enough left with no enemies. Did this mean peace and prosperity? No, of course not. 8 of the 9 families turned against each other in a series of civil wars. The 9th family, the Fritz family, who inherited the Founding Titan, was able to maintain order, as the Founding Titan allowed them to control all other Titans, and also control anyone descended from Ymir. After 1700 years, the founding titan was inherited by the 145th king, Karl Fritz. And Karl pitied the Marleyans. He retreated with his people to a massive island off the coast of Marley, the very island where Eren grew up. With the power of the founding titan, he created the 3 walls by using colossal titans. Tens of thousands of these are inside the walls, acting as a deterrent. He then wiped the memories of all Eldians on the island about the world beyond the walls. And if the outside world ever decides to attack Parody Island, it will allow a royal with the founding titan ability to trigger something called the rumbling. All of the colossal titans would burst from the walls and march in lockstep while trampling over everything in their path as a form of assured destruction. And in the 100 years since Karl's decision, where we pick up with Eren's story, the outside Eldian Empire collapsed and Marley took control over 7 of the 9 titans. And they're waging a world war with the rest of the world. Titans versus industrialization, as the world is roughly where ours was in the early 20th century. Remember, war never changes. Oh, and the new titans, those are descendants of Eldians left behind by the king. They are living as second-class citizens in internment camps across Marley. When I first saw this, I gotta admit I was a little worried. I thought this will be handled with the subtlety of an Arnie action flick dealing with themes of alcoholism.
You should not drink and bake.
But, to my surprise, it was very well executed, because it was all done in service of the theme. A select few Eldians are recruited as child soldiers to inherit the Titan ability, which distinguishes you from the mindless Titans we have seen so far. They are turned into Titans via Titan spinal fluid injection, and then they eat the previous inheritor. This is also where Reiner's, Berthold's and Annie's stories pick up, as all 3 of them were part of this Marley child soldier program. You see, Marley may have won the World War, but barely, and they worry that the rest of the world will take him out in the next round. When it comes to war, there is always a next round. So they devised a plan to infiltrate Parody Island and steal the founding titan. Why is the founding titan with Eren? Well, to understand that, we first have to look at why there's roaming mindless titans to begin with. With the advent of new technologies and industrialization, Marley started to turn subjects of Amir into titans via injection. They are using Parody Island as a dropping ground for criminal Eldians and other undesirables like the Restorationists, an underground movement looking to restore the old order prior to the exodus to Parody Island. And Grisha Yeager, Eren's father, was part of this movement until he was betrayed by his son Zeke. Zeke was also selected for the child soldier program, and similar to a good East German boy, he ratted out his parents. Zeke's mother is a descendant of the king, so Zeke is also of royal blood, and she was turned into the very titan that would end up eating Eren's mom, Grisha's second wife. Grisha was spared the same fate by a man named the Owl, a double agent who was helping the Restorationists. He asks of Grisha to devour him, not just because Grisha can use the Attack Titan ability to find and take the founding titan, but also because anyone who inherits a titan ability will only have another 13 years to live, the same number of years Ymir had before she died. So Grisha was found roaming beyond the walls and was taken in. He pretended to have amnesia and established himself as a doctor on Parody Island, and soon enough he discovered the royal family and Frida Rice, a descendant of the 145th king and current inheritor of the founding titan. Once the attack on Eren's hometown started in the first episode, Grisha pleaded with Frida to use the founding titan and save her people. But since Frida was bound by Karl's vow of pacifism, believing Eldians deserved their fate for what their ancestors did, she refused. Grisha then devoured her and killed the entire royal family. Broken and horrified by his actions, and after finding out his wife had been devoured, Grisha injects Eren with the spinal fluid and is then consumed by Eren. Hence why Eren ends up with both the Attack Titan and Founding Titan, but he's only able to use the Founding Titan ability when coming in contact with someone of royal blood, which is exactly what happened when he encountered Grisha's first wife in Titan form. Alright, so far so good, but this is unfortunately the moment where a lot of people jump ship. You see, some of the criticism levied against this show is the jarring shift in perspective. Grisha's flashbacks come out of nowhere, and at the beginning of Season 4 we are stuck with the Eldians on Marley's side. I can see why it might seem jarring to suddenly introduce a whole set of new characters. But all of this is done in service of the theme and Eren's dramatic arc. Eren is still at the forefront of it all, or rather Eren's facade. Grisha's flashbacks are actually memories which Eren inherited after eating his father. The Attack Titan gives you this ability. The memories are now coming back, and when we open with Season 4, we are still seeing everything through Eren's perspective, because Eren went undercover and is fighting on Marley's side. He can even be seen in the background of some scenes. This is how Eren sees Marley and the Eldians. He sees their suffering, their camaraderie, their heroism, but also their hatred, bigotry and bloodlust. And it is here that his facade is finally burned off and his flaw revealed. Eren's flaw from the get-go was tied to his need, his singular obedience towards a quest for freedom. But freedom and liberty are just another prison without virtue. You can stuff your face with as much junk as you want, you are free to do that. But all you'll create is a gluttonous prison destined to suffocate you. And so will every other vice. Without the virtue to push back, they all become a prison. And throughout Eren's dramatic arc, all the way towards the climax or midpoint at the end of Season 3, Eren did not once act out of virtue. He caused a ton of collateral damage, even trampling over a church in a fit of rage. He was driven by nothing but primal instinct. And once he reached his goal and found out what lies beyond the walls, that what he associated with freedom was nothing more than another, bigger world filled with more war, more hatred and more murder, he broke. And his flaw, or rather shadow, could only point in one direction, down. And the shadow can reach all the way down to hell. That's why we did the homework. With the what, how and why, you can create arguably the most important element in your story, the element which will glue and hold everything together, completing your storytelling tapestry, the character web. Each character in your web is part of an argument on your story's theme, your story's why. That's why Levi is in essence everything Eren is not. Where Eren is impulsive, irrational and frenzied, Levi is stoic, calm and controlled. And even when Levi's world collapsed multiple times around him, he managed to do the right thing because he acted out of virtue. When all his comrades die before his eyes, he is set on a virtuous goal.
What's wrong? Not enjoying yourself so much anymore? I'll harden. I won't make it in time. Come on, let's have some fun!
God, he's my favorite manlet. And the one time he debased himself with revenge, it cost him a couple fingers and an eye.
Mr. Summer! I hope you're still watching!
Both Erwin and Hanji are on the side of virtue. This is why both get a hero's death, finding themselves in, well, heaven I guess. And also answering the age-old question of why Erwin's horse was able to carry his massive balls into battle. It's because of virtue. This is why Mikasa has the same flaw as Eren, a single devotion to one primal instinct. But unlike Eren, she manages to sever hers in the end, quite literally, and out of virtue. This is also why Floch ends up nothing more than a brown shirt, a thug who could not overcome his shame and survivor's guilt, or why Armin goes through the biggest transformation, symbolically also inheriting the Colossal Titan. He starts as the weakest link in the chain, but ends up the strongest, holding everyone together. It's all an argument on the theme, everyone, Raina and Annie included. And to bring it all home, this is why you must confront your capacity for evil. You, myself, and let's call them the right side of history crowd, they can never imagine themselves to be the bad guys.
Do you get some sick pleasure out of watching people get eaten alive?
I wouldn't call it pleasure. I just find it interesting.
Other than psychopaths and malignant narcissists, most people think they're doing the right thing no matter the evil. Everyone thinks they would have been this guy, when in reality history shows that each one of you would have been like the rest. marching in lockstep without a second thought. But a good storyteller must put themselves in the shoes of evil. Actually, if you're a true storyteller, you don't have much of a choice. You may have picked the story, but the story is completely in charge now.
Leave us.
No, you stay here. I'm in charge.
Do you feel in charge?
I've paid you a small fortune.
This gives you power over me?
Only when you understand your capacity for evil will you elevate your theme, but when you shield yourself, then you're left with nothing but Ma allegory.
You've got to do better, Senator.
Pointless posturing about mundane day-to-day politics, and because it's a shield, the slightest pushback becomes an affront to your very being. I mean, I know, this is like sending a child into the boxing ring against a Mike Tyson in his prime, but compared to someone like Dostoevsky, what suffering are modern Hollywood screenwriters experiencing or willing to confront even?
My dearest Annabelle, I trust you find yourself in good health amidst our intricate polycule. Pray, convey my fond regards to Zer. Or was it Zen? Or even hers? Alas, I have lost count, for these appellations change with the ceaseless winds of time. Today, I have endured great suffering in the Starbucks trenches, where we have witnessed the loss of many comrades. While I was diligently composing my latest literary opus, I was caught off guard by unseen terrors. The pursuit of impeccable avocado to complement my gluten-free toast has plunged me into a profound existential quandary. And then, as I finally received my venti pumpkin spice latte, the gravest of misfortunes befell me. I was grievously misgendered, as if an affront to my very being. The injury cuts deep, my dearest Annabelle, for the trials of these times are unlike any faced by our forebears. Yours, in the midst of tribulations, Reginald Bartholomew Cuckbottom.
Yeah, thank God Isayama is not a modern writer but a classic one. And he knew all too well that Aaron's shadow will come to one conclusion only, that life itself is a sin.
This world was never our birthright. It's a hell to be saved from.
Oh my god, he doesn't just look like one, he also sounds like a school shooter. This is not the first time that a writer has identified this thinking as a source of incredible evil. The same revelation is given to Wyatt Earp in Tombstone.
A man like Ringo got a great empty hole right to the middle of him. He can never kill enough or steal enough or inflict enough pain to ever fill it.
What does he need?
Revenge.
For what?
Being born.
You see, the final twist in Attack on Titan, according to Kisho Tenketsu, or the Dark Night of the Soul segment in 3-act structure, is that Eren was responsible for all the suffering to begin with. The Attack Titan's hidden ability is that it gives you insight into the future, and Grisha himself was gaslit by Eren into killing the royal family. Because Ymir exists in a space outside of time, and because all subjects of Ymir are connected, Eren's shadow would come to a singular conclusion. Time and war are both a flat circle, and the last and only resort is to do away with life itself. Zeke is just another twist on the thematic argument. He wanted to use the Founding Titan to sterilize all Eldians, and maybe bring an end to suffering this way, to let the Titan ability die out. But in the end, like Grisha, he was duped too. And so Eren turns into an angel of death to bring about hell on Earth. And since we here at Narrative Arcade only hire the best of the best, I am happy to announce that Professor Kermit has joined us to explain why.
It's not
accident that the axiomatic Western individual is someone who was unfairly nailed to a cross and tortured. It's like, yes! So what do you do about that? Well, you don't get together in a damn mob, because all that does is allow you to be as horrible as you could possibly imagine and suffer from none of the consequences. That's a bad idea. So you don't want to be someone like that. Now, do you have a reason to be? Yes! You have lots of reasons to be. God, there's reasons to be resentful about your existence. Everyone you know is going to die. You know, you too. And there's going to be a fair bit of pain along the way, and lots of it's going to be unfair. It's like, yeah, no wonder you're resentful. It's like, act it out and see what happens. You make everything you're complaining about infinitely worse. There's this idea that hell is a bottomless pit, and that's because no matter how bad it is, some stupid son of a bitch like you could figure out a way to make it a lot worse. Nietzsche said, if you look into an abyss for too long, you risk having the abyss gaze back into you, right? Your suffering makes you bitter. Your bitterness makes you resentful. Your resentment makes you vengeful. And once you're on that road, you go down that a little bit farther, man. Well, you end up fantasizing in your basement about shooting up the local high school and then killing yourself, right? Because that's sort of the ultimate end of that line of pathological reasoning. Being should be eradicated because of its intrinsic evil, and I'm exactly the person to do it. And I'll cap it off with an indication of my own lack of worth just to hammer the point home, right? And if I can garner a little posthumous fame along the way, well, that'll satisfy my primordial primate dominance hierarchy imaginings too, at least in fantasy. So, you know, it's the full package if you want to go down that route. And of course, people don't like to think about that sort of thing, and it's no bloody wonder. But without the capability for mayhem, you're a potential victim to mayhem. Unless what you're aiming at is the maximum possible mayhem in the shortest period of time. And so to me, there's an old psychoanalytic idea. I think this was derived by Jung. If you can't figure out what someone is doing or why, look at the outcome and infer the motivation. If it produces mayhem, perhaps it was aiming at mayhem.
This is why Sayama managed to turn his entire narrative into the elixir. I have seen people complain about this show being political, complaining about scenes like these. But I think you can only call these scenes political if you think there is a political solution to the human condition.
So you're Eldians.
Hey, what was that for? We're allowed to be outside of the walls right now. We received permission.
I'm here to clean this tower and rid it of filth. That means removing trash and vermin. You demons have tainted my workplace. Understand? Your kind used to massacre everyone they could. You should be wiped out, so why are you breeding?
But I think that's because we have been fed a diet of Ma allegory bullshit.
You've got to do better, Senator.
Attack on Titan cuts deeper, much deeper. If you can't believe how realistic these scenes are, let me take you to the Balkans, where I'm from. Here, time is a flat circle. If you want to start a fight in the Balkans, just ask the following. Who started it?
There's a little bit of history in that part of the world, just a little bit. I remember when I was in Kosovo, we would go to a village. It'd be Albanians or Serbs or one of the other ethnic minorities, and they'd start going off about some massacre. And of course, we get all spun up going, oh my God, there's a massacre we didn't know about? And it turns out it was like 400 years ago. And they're still pissed.
And when time becomes a flat circle, what can you do? Well, the only thing you should do is look up. If the angel of death rages, become an angel of life, of all that is good. Only when good people realize that you can't talk your way out of it, that talk no jutsu has no effect on evil.
Then why do this? If talking won't help, then why bring us here?
I brought you here to say that there is nothing to say. You will only stop my advance when you stop me from breathing, and you are free to try.
And that only good people acting in the world can put a stop to evil.
So run, you cur! Run! Tell all the other curs the line's coming! You tell them I'm coming!
and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
That's when your story becomes one for the ages, and in its final moments, we discover Eren's true face. The facade is completely gone, and only left is an idiot with too much power and no guidance. This was the part where my wife started crying. I, as the man in the house, of course did not. I just looked like I got hot flaming Cheeto dust on my dick. And that's the storytelling of Attack on Titan. It's damn near perfect, because there is still plenty to criticize. Some characters are just wasted, like Historia and the other Ymir. A few moments could have been fleshed out more, so not to rely on pure chance. And honestly, this is an anime that is hurt by a tendency to over-explain in monologues.
I was wrong. This world hasn't become hell. It's been hell.
Yes, Armin. Yes, I can. Yes, Armin, I can see that. Armin, I can see that. Listen to me, I can hear the bones crunching. Listen to me, I can hear the bones crunching. Armin, stop explaining everything. Armin, I can hear it. I can see it with my own eyes. Armin, stop. And let's not pretend that any of this made any sense or was even set up.
What the? He's still alive. He must have transferred his consciousness throughout his entire nervous system.
So let me know in the comments what other animes you would like to see a breakdown of from a screenwriting perspective. I do have Naruto and Hunter x Hunter planned, and for the most part I recommend suggesting completed shows so I can see the complete dramatic arc. And also let me know what you think of my breakdown. Did I hit the theme or miss the mark? Because I only know one thing for sure: life is suffering, but Shevapi helps you transcend it through heart disease.
So how about we don't do that? Well, there's a deep idea in the West too. It's like, pick up your damn suffering and bear it. And try to be a good person so you don't make it worse. Well, that's a truth. You know, I read a lot about the terrible things that people have done to each other. You just cannot even imagine it. It's so awful. So you think, well, what do you do about that? Well, you accept it. That's what life is like. It's suffering. That's what the religious people have always said. Life is suffering. Yes. Well, who wants to admit that? Well, just think about it. Well, so what do you do in the face of that suffering? Try to reduce it. Start with yourself. What good are you? Get yourself together, for Christ's sake, so that when your father dies, you're not whining away in a corner and you can help plan the funeral. And you can stand up solidly so that people can rely on you. That's better. Don't be a damn victim. Of course you're a victim. Jesus, obviously. Put yourself together. And then maybe if you put yourself together, you know how to do that. You know what's wrong with you, if you'll admit it. You know there's a few things you could like polish up a little bit, that you might even be able to manage in your insufficient present condition. And so you might shine yourself up a little bit, and then your eyes will be a little more open, then you can shine yourself up a little bit more, and then maybe you could bring your family together instead of having them be the hateful, spiteful, neurotic, infighting batch that you're like doomed to spend Christmas with.